Hey everyone, how are you doing? Welcome to Practical Math, Week 10. We are getting into buying and holding a stock market simulation. Today's going to be kind of fun. So here's our essential question for the week. How can understanding and analyzing trends on graphs and calculations of exponential growth and decay help me predict the rate of return and the risks involved in purchasing stocks and bonds? All right, what are we going to be learning? Well, we're going to talk about what a stock is, the stock market, defining corporation, public offering, stocks and bonds, etc. We're going to evaluate alternative stock purchases and analyzing the criteria for deciding when to buy or sell. We're going to explain how stock analysts use trend lines to analyze stock trends. Finally, we're going to calculate rates of return for stock and bond purchases over a 10-year period. We're going to talk about diversification and how it can lower your investment risk and explain why many investors find it difficult to follow the advice of buy low and sell high. Finally, we're going to do some exponential growth and decay, which you've been working on in this term, to compare losses and gains in our stock market. Again, like always, as we're going through this assignment, take notes, pause the video at any time to work through and understand the examples. Use this video and the week 10 text to learn more about this week's topic and use it as a resource while you're working on all the assignments for the week. If you have any questions or need some help, definitely call, email me, or text me. I'd love to work with you on this. All right, so the stock market. Today we get to play around with stock markets and how we can use math to help us understand what is happening, as well as determine how well any stock we've purchased is doing. Let's first start by just watching a short video introducing us to the basics of how a stock market works.
Stock markets in plain English. Let's get started by talking about companies. There are two basic types. The first is called a private company. Ownership in these companies is private, which means it's not available to everyone. They're usually small to medium-sized, and there are a lot of them, from the bakery down the street to a local trucking company. Private companies are typically owned by an individual or a small group of people. Because ownership is limited, we won't worry about them. Our focus is on companies that offer ownership to everyone. These are called public companies. Here's how they work. Let's say Zipper Corp is a successful company that has big plans. It wants to expand and build a button factory, but it doesn't have enough money. Because it's a public company, Zipper Corp can divide part of the ownership of the company into thousands of pieces and sell them to people like Maya. These are company stock, also called shares. This way, Maya gets to own a small part of the company, and Zipper Corp can raise money for their new factory. Being a public company allows Zipper Corp to raise money from lots of new owners like Maya. Now, Maya's share of the company has a value that typically changes each business day. When Zipper Corp is doing well, the future of the company can look promising. This means that the value of the company and the value of her shares may go up. People like Maya buy shares because they can make money by selling them at the right time. The big idea is to buy shares at a low price and sell them at a higher price. Of course, this is risky because a company's future is hard to predict. For example, people who believe the button factory is a good move may want to buy Zipper Corp shares because they think the value will increase. People who believe the button factory is a bad idea may want to sell Zipper Corp shares because they think the value will decrease. This means the company's stock has both buyers and sellers. Each business day, shares change hands, depending on how people feel about the company's future value. Some days there's more buying, which can cause the stock price to rise. Some days there is more selling, which can cause the stock price to fall. This is true for each public company in the market. As people buy and sell shares, stock prices can change each day. It's these exchanges across thousands of companies and millions of people that make up a stock market. When you see news that a stock market rose, it generally means that across public companies, the value of shares went up more than they went down. This is usually considered good news. People feel good about the future and they're buying shares. Now, because there are thousands of companies, there has to be an easy way to see the big picture across the market. We do this with an index, which is an average of a specific group of stock prices. Indices help us understand if the markets went up or down on a given day by looking at the performance of a group of companies. For example, The Dow Jones Industrial Average is an average of the stock prices of 30 large U.S. companies. The S&P 500 is an average of 500 companies. We hear a lot about stock markets in the U.S., but there are stock markets all over the world. In each market, companies share ownership with the public, and that ownership is exchanged over and over. And we get to see how it all comes together across public companies thanks to indices we see in the news each business day.
All right, hopefully that was pretty interesting. Let's play around with a real example. Buffalo Wild Wings is pretty popular here in the Northwest. It's a local restaurant, grill and bar. A good place to go if you want to watch sports. But let's take a look about the history of how Buffalo Wild Wings came to be where it is. Well, they started with one restaurant or one store location with two owners in 1982. And you're like, wow, that's a long time ago, right? Almost 35 years ago. Well, they slowly worked hard on expanding. They borrowed money from banks. They saved money as they reinvested it. And after 13 years, so this would mean now in 1995, they owned and operated 35 stores. So some expansion, right? 1 to 35 in 13 years, that's not too bad. But they were limited in how much they can grow. They had great ideas. They saw a lot of business potential. And what they decided to do is, after 8 more years of kind of doing it on their own, they decided to go public in 2003. Public means you have shares and stock available for investors, and now you're saying, we'll let you buy into our company, pay us some money, and then we get a lot of money from all these investors that will let us do some big things. So they went public in 2003, and now in just 5 years, now that in 2008, they have over 500 restaurants, are still growing, are still expanding, probably even have more today in 2017. So what does it mean when you went public? Let's break down what that means a little bit. So again, for Buffalo Wild Wings, to be public, you have to have some sort of bank or valuation company come in. They look at all your services, all your restaurants, anything that's worth value. And they decided that in 2002, when they went public, that they were worth 8 million shares worth $15 each. So the total value of the company would be 8 times $15 million. So 8 times 15, that would be $120 million. That was the value of the company, right? That's all the stores, anything that company owns as worth some value. Well, Buffalo Wild Wings then said, okay, well, we'll keep 5 million of those shares. So the owners kept 5 million because they want to retain some ownership of the company, but they were willing to sell 3 million of those shares to individual investors. So individuals were able to come in and have now part ownership of Buffalo Wild Wings. And so they sold 3 million shares, each worth $15. And they ended up bringing in, just on the first day when they went public, they sold 3 million and they made $47.2 million. That's all now money that they have to invest, to open new stores, to buy land, to invest in equipment, to hire new people. That's a lot of money that you can use to help grow your business. And those are people investing are predicting that you're just going to do that. Say, okay, I'll buy some shares because I think this company is doing some good things. Well, after just one day, it was a successful opening that was initially valued at $15 a share. And by the end of the first day, the shares had increased up to being worth $22.95 for each share. So if you bought a share at $15, one day later, you've made $7.95 just on that one share. So if you bought 100 shares, you made $70. You made $700. So you can see here now where things are growing. If you invested, you want your shares to increase because then you're starting to make money. All right, so we're going to be doing with some stocks. Hopefully you have a good idea now about how stocks work and how companies work. Let's talk about reading a stock market graph, right? Every company publishes, if it's a public company, they publish a growth chart showing how much each stock is worth. So you can see in this company right here, this is MMM, that's 3M, they make some stuff there, like tape, Scotch tape. The 3M makes Scotch tape. Everyone uses Scotch tape, right? But we can see from 1970, looking on the x-axis, all the way to 2000, we can see the value of this company. Started off at $5 a share, roughly. Kind of increased, kind of stayed the same, but then right around 1982, 1983, it starts a growth trend. Seems to be increasing in value, and right now in 2000, it's worth $45. If you invested in 1970, over 30 years, you bought at $5 and now it's worth $45. So you made $40 on every share. It's pretty good growth, right? Well, using our math skills and combining with economics, economists they look for kind of low end and high end, right? They want to look for potential and they look for trends and patterns. So if we apply kind of our understanding of linear patterns, we can see here at the high end, it was really high here and is really high here. But then we kind of have a low end where it seems to hit the bottom. So low, 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 low. The low end is called the support line. And generally, your stock is not going to really dip below that. It helps give you a baseline for what the bottom of your stock could be. The resistance line up top kind of gives you a high end. It says it kind of hits here, but every time it hits the top, it wants to bounce back down. Well, if you're an investor, you want to buy into a stock at the bottom when it hits the support line, because then there's a potential to grow in between here. You do not want to buy if it's at the high point, if it's at the resistance. That means it's probably not going to get higher than that. So if you bought here, you've only saw your money decrease for a while. But if you bought right here, it's increasing, 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 and you get a general idea of when it's a good time to buy and when it's a good time to sell. It's a good time to buy into a stock when it's on the support line. But then right here, this is a good time to sell your stock because you know, wow, we've hit the top. It's probably not going to get any more money. I'm going to sell it and then watch some other person who now owns it lose all his value right here. So we use trend lines, we use linear equations and graphs to help us understand if a stock is a good time to buy or if it's a good time to sell. Okay, so in our stock simulation, we're going to play around with an online simulation of the stock market. We're going to invest $100,000 in several different stocks. And then we're going to look at some longitudinal growth over 7 years to see just what happens with the value of a stock over time. We can do this because if we look historically, we can really easily pick a company and see what it did. It's much harder to do it in the future, but at least it'll give us some idea what's going to happen. And we can start to begin to see stock market patterns and investment strategies. All right, let's go ahead and pull up the simulation and play around with some things there. Hey everyone, here we are. We are at the simulation and we're going to talk a little bit about going through some stocks, picking some stocks ourselves and seeing what happens over kind of the long term. So I've got a teacher code. I'm going to log in just with my name here, my email. Let's begin. All right, so the first thing, my goal, I want to spend $100,000. So I have some certain stocks that I can invest in. So there's MMM, AMZN, CBP, DIS, Dow. What do all these mean? Well, these are abbreviations of certain stocks. So let's go over and research what these stocks are. All right, so 3M, that's their MMM. They make like Scotch tape and other different supplies, but that's probably what they're most famous for, right? They're a general kind of plastics production company. When we look at a graph, what are we looking at? Well, let's look at our axes. On the bottom, we have February, March, April, May, June, July, from 98, 99 to 2000. So we're looking at the last 3 years. We have a graph that shows the value of the stock. So we can see 26, 27, 28, 29, 30. This is the price that each share is worth. So we can see that the stock opened at $35.76. It's gotten to a high of $35.92, gotten to a low of $35.02. So it's kind of staying pretty close to the same. At least this is for the day, right? But overall, if I look over the last 3 years, we can see kind of right around $31. It's increased, decreased, increased, decreased, and it kind of fluctuates a little bit. Looks like it went down at its worst right here in September of 98. but then kind of languished and then kind of increased back up again. So there we go. So we're getting a 3-year view. In the graph in red, this is telling you, kind of showing you what's happened in the last 200 days. That's why it says MA 200. And the blue line tells you what's happened in the last 50 days. So we can see 3 years, we can see kind of the last 200 days and the last 50 days. So the last 200 days, we would see it's kind of gone down, but then it seems to be increasing right here. And the blue line, we can see it's kind of fluctuating, mostly decreasing, but then kind of increasing right at the end. But I would say for 3M in this particular stock, it seems to be holding kind of steady. It did dip down a year ago, but right now at 2000, it seems to be kind of holding steady. We want to look for graphs, or we want to look for stocks that are low but have a lot of potential to increase. Let's look at this one, AMZN. That's Amazon, right? We all know Amazon, the online company where you can buy pretty much anything. This is what its stock was doing from 2099, 98. It is pretty much just increasing, right? It almost make a straight line all the way through here, and it's sort of flatlining right about here. So this one looks pretty good. It would increase. Campbell Soup. What's going on here? Well, it seems to slowly increase, but then overall, it looks like it's trending downward. I do not know if this would be a good one to buy. The whole last year, it's been losing value, right? Went from $42 a share, and now it's right at $28 a share. So it's lost $14 for each share. That does not make investors happy. But you can just scroll through. Here's Disney. Again, kind of the same thing. Peaked, big dip, increase, but it seems to be kind of trending downward. There we go. We researched some stocks. That's good. Let's go back and let's just pick some and see what's happening now. So let's go back here. And I'm going to pick, let's pick 100, let's pick 500 of Amazon and see how much that gives us. All right, so Amazon.com. Buying 500 shares cost us $44,000. So we're actually almost halfway to our 100,000. So let's buy a little bit of Disney. Let's buy 250 Disney. And that wasn't very much left. We could get a little more Disney. Let's go and destroy it and get some more Disney. Let's buy 500 Disney. We all like Disneyland. Okay, so we bought some Amazon, we bought some Disney. Let's buy some Starbucks. That's what S-Bucks is. So let's go 500 Starbucks. And let's go Whirlpool. They make like refrigerators and washers and dryers. Let's buy some of that. And let's just keep this last $2,730. We'll just keep it as cash, and just so we can get an idea what's going on. All right, so there's our total portfolio value. We've invested $97,000 to $97,270. We invested it in some companies we knew, right? Amazon, Disney, Starbucks, Whirlpool, and we saved a little bit just for cash. All right, we're going to submit our investments. And there we go. All right, there's our initial price. There's our total value in 2000. Total value in 2000. And we are now going to play around with seeing what happens. Let's do it. Notice that Amazon is the most expensive one, right? It's almost $90 for a share. So it cost us a lot to buy 500 shares of Amazon. Whereas Starbucks, it's pretty cheap. The same 500 shares of that was only $6.23. So we bought just the same amount of shares, but definitely some companies are worth more than others and really expensive to get in. Remember, with stocks, as an investor, you're trying to look at stocks that have a potential to grow and earn you some money. You don't want to buy stocks that are high with more potential to lose some money. All right, so the year is currently 2000. Let's up this, and we're going to project these stocks 2 years from now. So I'm going to switch things over. Let's refresh this page here. And we're going to switch. All right, let's refresh this page. Now the year is currently 2002. What has happened to our stock? Let's start with Amazon. We started off at $89.38 a share, and it lost $36,185. Yikes. What happened? So it went from $44,000 to only worth $8,505, right? We bought it at $89.38 a share, and now it is only $17.01 a share. What is going on? Amazon is a huge company. What happened during that time? Well, in 2002, there was a big stock crash. There was a lot of what's considered .coms, the web, internet, all these businesses. The website was booming, but for some reason or other, there was a big crash, and a lot of people lost a lot of money investing in tech and website and .com businesses. So you see that here on Amazon, it crashed hard, crashed big time. Well, what did Disney do? All right, well, it was $40.68, and it is only worth $15.24 too. So it went down by a lot. We lost a lot of money as well there. We lost $12,000. Starbucks, on the other hand, from 2000 to 2002, increased. It went from $6.23, now it's worth $10.50. So it increased, it helped us out a little bit. We made a little bit money on Starbucks. Whirlpool and our dishwashers, our washing machines, all that stuff, it lost a little bit of money too. So overall, we spent, remember our initial amount? We invested in $97,000, a little bit more than that. And now we essentially only have $44,000. We lost more than $50,000 in 2 years. That would not be a good investment. Now, this is what people do, right? What do you want to do? If you just lost $50,000 in 2 years, you're probably mad. You're probably panicking. You probably hate the stock market, and you're ready to get out. You're done with it. There's a waste of time, waste of money. Let's just get out. And that's what a lot of people do, right? When things go bad, people try and get out. They panic, and they just simply want to avoid the situation. But actually, remember, the stock market, you make money by buying when things are low in the hope that things will get better, they'll increase, and you'll make money. All right, so let's see what's going to happen now. I'm going to switch the year. We're going to go from, remember we bought our stock at 2000. Then we went, now it's 2002. Let's project out now to 2007, so 5 years later. Let's see what all of our stock is doing in 5 years from now. All right, I'm going to refresh this. All right, the year is currently 2007. Now what has happened? Well, with Amazon, we initially was $89.38. What is its current price? Whoa, it's gone back up. So it went from 89 when we bought it to now 93. So if we didn't panic, if we actually held on to our Amazon.com stock, even though it went way down in 2002, 5 years later, now it's back up, and now we've actually made a little bit of money compared to when we first invested. What has Disney done? Well, started at $40. It's now gone back up a little bit as well. It's $35.47. We've still, on the whole, lost a little bit from when we first invested, but not as much as if we had sold 5 years ago. So holding on to Disney still recovered some of our money as well. Starbucks took off, right? Remember, in the last, Starbucks is huge now. So if you got in on Starbucks, it went from $6.23. Now it's worth $26.84. We've made $10,000 off of our Starbucks investment. Same with Whirlpool. It has increased and now worth $18,000 more. So now, if we held onto our stocks, if we didn't do anything different, look at what our total portfolio worth is now. We invested $97,000, and now from 2000 to 2007, over 7 years, we've made $27,745. So now we've gained money, we have made money, we've used our money, invested in other businesses, and now we have more value with them. What happened in 2007? Well, 2007 was right at the financial peak, right before, unfortunately, the Great Recession of 2008. So, this obviously shows that the stock market fluctuates. There's times where things go really well, like 2007, things are high. If you were smart, well, or if you had an idea of what's coming or could look back in time, 2007 would be a good time to sell, because 2008 all the way to about 2010 or 2011, things went down a lot. It was tough economic times. But now here in 2017, things are going better again. The stock market is increasing a lot. So the stock market is one of those things where it can be a valuable investment. It can be a good place to put your money, but you have to really think long term. But you also have to be smart about where the economy is going. For example, you would not want to invest your money in newspapers right now because people don't read newspapers. People don't buy newspapers. That's happening less and less. With the internet, people just get stuff online. So, if you invested in newspapers, you're losing a lot of money. You want to look for something that's going to be growing in the future. All right. Well, there's our stock market simulation. Hopefully that's helping you see historically some different trends and patterns and what can happen as we invest our money over time. All right, so what did we observe? What are some things that we can pull out from that exercise? Well, the stock market, the value of some companies can fluctuate quite a bit, right? Just in that 7 years, we saw Amazon go from $90 to below $20 a share, back up to even making some money, right? And it's probably even worth more now because everybody uses Amazon. It's grown even more over the last 7 years. So things fluctuate. You just have to keep that in mind. They're, depending on which stock you buy, some are more what we call volatile and some are more what we call safe. The gut impulse is to sell when things go bad, right? If you invested in Amazon in 2000 and you waited till 2002, things crashed and you freaked out and panicked and you said, I got to get out, I'm going to lose more money, when it would have been really bad to sell in 2002. Holding on for the long run is a better strategy. And in fact, in the stock market, that's why they say you want to buy when things are low, when no one else is buying, when everyone else is sad and panicking, pulling out. That's a good time to buy because things are low. They only can go up. However, when things are up and you're feeling happy and everyone's happy and the stock market is great, it's hard to sell because you want to keep going up. But that's a good time to sell when things are doing really well and you've made a lot of money on a stock. But it's hard to do. We can use graphs to help us see trends and patterns, right? When we looked at a few of the stocks, some of them were growing, some of them were flat, staying the same, some of them were decreasing. It helps us give some information to see which stock may be a better buy. And finally, obviously, getting to know which companies you're investing in is a good idea rather than just buying stock in a name brand. You want to think, well, what is this company going to do? That's why you want to stay current with the news. Marvel and Disney, right? It ended up in our stock at 2007, still not doing that great. But when did Disney start making all their movies? All the Star Wars movies that they made, all the Marvel movies that they made? Disney has been doing it amazing since then. So if you kind of had an idea, wow, Disney is buying Star Wars. Wow, Disney is investing in Marvel movies in the long run plan. Now you have some idea what that company is doing, and you may invest in it thinking they're going to make some good money off of these decisions, and then you would have made a lot of money on Disney. Finally, it's good to diversify the stock you are investing in. Some stocks may increase a lot, some stocks may lose a little bit of money, but overall, if we took all 4 of our stocks, we ended up making some money, even though not everything did great. But we ended up making a little over $25,000 over that 7-year period. You want to have some diversity rather than putting all your money in one stock and having it all go down or fluctuate as badly. You want to kind of keep some stability in what you're investing in. All right, let's do a little bit of math. So we've got some stocks, we've got some numbers. Let's calculate our rate of return. So in January of 2000, we invested $97,000, $97,270 into several companies. Nearly, 7.5, almost 8 years later, our investment has increased to $125,015. So our rate of return, a rate involves a percentage. We want to know, well, what percentage did you make? So let's figure out how to calculate that. So first we need to find the difference. How much did we grow by? So if I take $125,015 and I subtract from that $97,270, let's see how much we actually increased by. All right, we had a gain, and it actually shows you on the simulation, we gained $27,745. That was our increase from that amount to that amount. Okay, but I want to find my rate of return, so let's turn that into percentage. So we had 27,000 was how much we increased by, and we divide that by our initial investment. I initially invested this much and it grew by that much. So let's divide those. And if I do 27,745 divided by 97270, we get this number 0.2852. Now, that's not a percent right there. It's telling me my increase though, right? So to turn it into percent, I need to multiply it by 100. So 0.2852 to turn it in percent per 100. So we increased over that almost 8-year period by a little over 28.5%. So that's a percent problem. We just use some math to figure out that's a 28.52% increase when we gained to $27,000. All right, that's feeling pretty good, but that was over 8 years. So now let's figure out, well, we want to know our yearly growth, right? Inflation is anywhere from 1% to 3% per year. And we want to know, well, did we grow our money faster than the inflation rate? So 28% over 8 years, how much is that per year? So now let's calculate the yearly rate of return. Here we have to use an exponential function. Now the temptation would be to say, well, 28.52%, well, it's just divided by 8 for 8 years, right? Unfortunately, it does not work that way for linear functions or for exponential functions. When we're growing by a percent, when we're increasing by a percent every year, we need to use an exponential function to figure out the yearly rate. So exponential functions, if you remember, are always f of x equals a starting value, an initial amount, plus we're increasing by some rate, and there's my variable in the exponent. But now what we're going to do is we've invested, we're going to solve for the rate. Let me switch colors here. It froze up, won't let me do it. All right, so we're going to try and solve for the rate, right? We want to know the yearly rate. So let's solve for r. We do know that x, the amount of time, how many times are we compounding year by year? Well, we're going to do it for 8 years. January 1st to October 1st, that's almost 8 years. Let's say just that's an 8-year growth period. We do know our initial amount, right? We invested $97,270. And we know f of x, the amount of money we get back. We knew after 8 years, it's grown to $125,015. All right, so everything else we can now work backwards and calculate. So let's set up our equation. We now have $125,015. We started with $97,270. We're multiplying it by some interest rate, but we don't know what that is. We're going to solve for R, but we've done it for 8 years. Now we just got to work backwards to solve for R. So I'm going to draw my line. Let's do a little bit of algebra. To get R by itself, I first need to divide both sides by 97,270. All right, and so if we do that, let's divide those out here, simplify it out. 125,015 divided by 97,270. And we get 1.2852 equals 1 plus R to the 8th power. To undo the 8th, I want to get R by itself, so I got to figure out how to undo that 8th power. Well, we take both sides to the 1/8 power using my exponent properties. Power of a power rule says I multiply those together. 8 times 1/8 is going to be just 1. So it's to the first power. So all I have left is 1 plus R. The 8th and 1/8 undo each other. But if I do it on the right side, I got to take the left side to the 1/8 power as well. So let's use my calculator. That number to the 1/8 power, I can put 0.125 in, is going to give me 1.0319 if I round it. The only thing I have to do is subtract 1 from both sides, and we get 0.0319 equals R. Well, to turn it back into percent, let's multiply it by 100. And you can see that our rate of growth, our yearly rate of growth was 3.19%. So even though I made 28.52% over 8 years, on average, each year, that's about a little over 3% growth, 3.19% growth. So now I have a good idea to know, is my growth a good one or not? Did we grow more than what I could have? Or did I grow a little bit? Do I need to reinvest my stocks? Usually you want to see your growth. Anything over 5% is usually pretty good growth. Even greater is 8 or 10% growth. But if you're investing your money and you're only getting like maybe 0.5% or 1%, you're not growing very well and you need to find a better investment. But there you go. We just used some math and exponential functions and equations and some algebra to help figure out how well our money is growing as we invested in the stock market. So in conclusion, investing your money is a smart thing to do when you start earning your money. When you start getting a job, you want to save some money, you want to build your retirement, you want to have some money to live off of. However, you have to keep a long-term perspective on your investments. If you just invest a little bit and pull it out and panic, you're probably going to lose money that way. So when starting out, you want to invest in companies that have a good amount of growth projected. When you're first investing, if you're going to be investing over 30 years, it's okay to take some risks and to find some good earning stocks in the beginning. But as you get older and you near retirement, you want to change your investment strategy to have more secure companies. You don't want to lose half your money in a big dip, just like an Amazon in 2002. You want to invest in safe, secure companies that are steadily growing, or even bonds. There's other different types of investments besides the stock market. The return isn't much, but your money is still growing and growing. However, you may think, well, let's not have any risk. Let's not invest my money, right? I'm just going to save it and hold on to it. That's a bad strategy as well. Think about how much things used to be, right? If you had $100,000 in 1970, that was worth a lot of money back then. But if you have $100,000 today, it's still a lot of money, but it's not worth nearly as much as it was 30, 40 years ago. If you aren't investing your money, if your money is not growing, inflation still happens. Things still increase. The cost of living still increases. That gallon of milk, that bread is worth more slightly year after year after year. So you need to be investing your money just to keep up with the growth of the economy overall. So, what did we do? Well, we learned about a lot of this stuff, right? You have a good idea about how stocks work and businesses work. You have some ideas on how to determine when's a good time to buy or sell and looking at stock trends and graphs. We actually did some rates of return and over some time period, over our 7-year example that we did. Diversification helps lower your investment risk. It's really hard to buy low when things are bad because you want to get out of the game. You're feeling miserable. It's really hard to sell high because you're enjoying earning your money. You don't want to get rid of that hot stock that's been doing well for you that last year. But this is generally good advice when you want to invest in things. Finally, we did a little bit of math with exponential growth and decay and looked at, well, how much did we make year after year after year? All right, hopefully this was interesting to you, and hopefully you have a good desire to start exploring investments in the stock market. And let me know if you have any questions.